Hello. Good evening, everyone.
Hi, guys.
How is everyone this evening?
Hello.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. We are live, I do believe. Hi, everyone. Christy says her mom, Karen's listening. Todd's working tonight.
Hi, Sam. Hi, Dawn.
There's Sam I Am, and Dawn, Hannah.
Hi, Sandy. Hi, Christy.
Mandy. Hello, Mandy. She's watching on YouTube. See, she found it on YouTube. Why can't Glenn find it on YouTube? Jenny. Hello, Tina. Hey.
Hi, y'all.
We see your names. How's everyone doing this evening?
I know we're getting a little bit of rain, but at least we're not having tornadoes like they are in the South. They're having some severe weather. I saw Pastor Kevin Wallace and Pastor Lipsy both had to cancel church tonight because the weather's so bad. So.
Lipsy should have stayed here. I would have let him preach tonight. He could have done real
so
talk with Ed Lipsy.
Rain's not always bad. It could always be worse. Yes.
Hallelujah. Miss Lernos, hey. Judy Burdine's watching. Hello. Good evening, Nancy.
Hello.
And it's not snowing.
Hallelujah.
Oh, but you know what? It's going to one day this week.
This weekend we're supposed to have flurries.
So it's coming. It's coming. Thanks, Nancy. You did that. Thanks.
So we do have our fur friends with us this evening. I think, Chris, would you like to go get them and bring them in? Some of you know Otis and Carmen, but I have them with me here at the church, so I'd like for you guys to say hi to them. And I'm sure they're going to want to say hi, too. They'll bark right at you.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Mason's T-ball practice
and
keeps
here
getting
they
canceled.
come.
I hear the boy. Oh.
I hear Otis. I see the boy. Come here. Come on. All right, we're going to say hi. All right, guys. This is Sir Otis Pugsley. He's the boy. And Daddy this is little Carmen. We call her Rat. She's a little bit bigger than a rat.
They're the ones that actually run the Mitchum house.
They're the babies. And they get what they want. So they just wanted to say hi. Can you say hi? Oh my God.
All right, guys. Enjoy doggy daycare.
And Rat.
And Rat.
Oh,
okay.
we love them.
So most of you know that we have been asking for questions.
Hang on just 1 second. I think they're trying to talk.
Carmel wants to preach tonight. Piper wants to preach tonight too.
It's okay. You're all right. I'll take you.
I think they're going to do the speaking tonight. If that's all right with everybody, we'll just let the dogs have the service. Okay.
That's all right. We just wanted you guys to meet our doggies.
Yeah, some of you have known Otis and Carmen for a long time, and some of you probably never saw them before. So those are our babies.
They're 10 and 11 years old.
So we've been asking for questions for these Real Talk segments, and we got a few that we're going to go over tonight, and then we'll just maybe migrate into something else depending on how long we spend chatting about this. And it's kind of what we're going to do on these nights. We're not going to try to be too deliberate and real structured. We're just going to kind of chat and just kind of keep it as casual as possible. So the first question that we received that we're going to break down for you is, and what was the premise? What was the idea that we threw out? It's about starting over.
About starting over, and as the seasons change, what questions do you have that you would want to start over?
Right.
Like maybe you've had mistakes in your life, or maybe you did some things that are hurtful, maybe to yourself or other people, that you could just start over.
And start new jobs.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, everybody is at a different season. Some people are just starting, like Jared and Rachel are just starting to have kids. And then there's those of us that are at the end of this, where we're about to not have any kids at home anymore.
And then there's those that already have the grandkids, and the grandkids are having kids.
Right,
so,
right. So we're all kind of ending and beginning seasons all the time. So the first question that we're going to talk about is, I have said hurtful things about myself to myself that I would never say to anyone. Dwelling on and repeating scriptures, listening to worship music helps me to refocus. What things can I do to sustain and promote healthy thought processes? So the first thing that I always say when I hear somebody talking about themselves is, I want you to stop doing that. I want you to meet a friend of mine. And then and if this was the conversation, I would say, I don't want you to say that about my friend, because my friend Amanda doesn't deserve to be talked to like that.
Right.
So it's about self-talk.
Exactly. And scripturally, what came to my mind was 2 Corinthians 10:4. It says, "For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to pull down strongholds." It is automatic that we're going to have negative thoughts about other people, about ourselves. And the word tells us that we are to constantly to be pulling down those strongholds. So when we are speaking ill or bad of ourselves, the word is telling us that we have to get rid of those thoughts. We have to take them captive and get rid of them. We have to speak words of affirmation.
Right.
And that's really hard. I know it's really hard for my husband to do that, even like for him to tell himself. And women, I know we are the worst at it. To tell ourselves we're beautiful, I can do all things, I am confident enough today, because most of the time we feel less than all of that. Mm-hmm. And so speaking words of affirmation over ourselves, we will begin to feel more confident. Physically, not anything to do spiritually, do things that make you happy, find hobbies, do things that you like to do, refocus your thoughts and your attention and the negativity to doing something fun.
And how do we refocus? Well, okay, so Paul, and you guys know that this is one of my favorite passages. Paul in Philippians chapter 4 and verse 8 says, "Now, my dear brothers and sisters," he's about to close this letter. He says, "One final thing." In other words, he's spoken now for 3 chapters, and he says, "I've got one more thing I want to tell you." And he uses this phrase that the King James doesn't use, but the more modern translations puts it like this: fix your thoughts. And I like that translation, because when our minds are in the wrong place, on the wrong things, the world system is broken. So you get on Facebook, and I'm frozen on here, but maybe I'm not there. Okay. When you get on Facebook and you see everybody's wedding that they just had, and their kids are all clean and dressed nice, and the little boy's got his hair combed, and your kid is eating something that he pulled out of his nose, and you feel less than. Like we constantly have this a game of comparison, and we feel like we're losing.
You want to hide.
Yeah. Why? Because your mind is on the wrong thing. And that's why Paul says, fix your mind, because most of us, where we put our mind is in the wrong place. And so he tells us where to fix them. Fix them on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise.
Well, don't God tell us, as a man thinks he is, so is he.
So is he.
So the way that we think about ourselves and the way that we speak to ourselves, that's what we'll become.
Yeah, because as the rest of us follow our minds. So, and I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on this, but a lot of us have one of two issues. We either have low self-esteem, which is a genuine, natural problem that we need to overcome. Then there's some of us that don't necessarily have low self-esteem, but we have a false humility, which means we were taught to always stay humble.
Right.
So we won't say anything good about ourselves.
Because you feel like you're arrogant.
Because you feel arrogant, prideful, and so somebody along the way taught you, don't you ever do that. You stay humble. Well, staying humble doesn't mean I talk bad about myself.
Right.
Staying humble just means I don't think so highly of myself.
Well, most of the time when we think or talk bad about ourselves, other people aren't hearing us do it anyways. It's the way that we talk to ourselves in private.
Right.
Oh, you're stupid. You can't do that. You're never going to be able to be like such and such.
Right.
You're never going to be able to sing like them or do this because you're not that good. And that's what we do to ourselves.
And that's why I'm always telling people, I don't want you to talk to my friend like that. I don't want to hear you talk to my friend that way. When we talk about ourselves, we should talk about the good things, because we all have good things in us. We're created in the image and likeness of God. And James tells us that when we talk about other people, we are actually talking about God, who is the one that created them. Well, when you talk about yourself, you're doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Because in essence, we can do all things in Christ. And when we're not good enough in one area, Christ makes up the difference.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And whatever we can't do or we can't accomplish, Christ makes up the difference.
So the second question that we're going to deal with is, I'm going to let you go first on this one. When trying to rebuild a relationship between a parent and an adult child, what actions by the parent would be viewed favorably by the adult child? Okay, none of them. And the second one is, how does an adult parent let go? Just like Elsa.
Yeah, let it go. First of all, don't give too much advice. I know that seems simple, but realistically, don't give them too much advice, because then it just makes them angry. Just do life with them. Let them know that their presence, no matter what their choices are, and that is really hard as parents, because we raise our kids a certain way and we put certain things in them, and then they go and do whatever they want to do. No matter what their choices are, let them know that they're still enough. God will work on them. That's his job. Just like it was God's job to work on me, it's God's job to work on my kids. Our job is to love them, be there for them, give them guidance, give them scriptural guidance when necessary and when asked. And when they have questions, we answer. It's really hard to jump ahead of all of that. But this is biblical, because we raise a child in the way that they should go. When they depart, they'll come back. The thing is, getting to a place to where we don't over advise our kids to death, because we don't want to run them off. You want to build a relationship. You always think when your children are small that that's the best relationships that you have, but they say that when your kids become adults, that's your best friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we want. And I don't think that we ever let go. We just learn to just not talk about it. You don't ever let go, because in my mind as a mom, I still think of my kids as being small. I'm 45 and my dad still thinks of me as his little girl. I don't think there's ever an age to where you don't think of your kids as being small, or they're your little kids. You're always going to love them that way, and you're always going to see them little.
Right. So I'll let her go first because she's going to tell you the touchy-feely stuff. And then I'm going to come at it with a logical brain, okay? There's two ways to lead. There's two different spheres of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
One's called cooperative leadership, and the other is called commanding leadership. So you as a parent are a leader. And by the way, it doesn't matter because the question specifically is about grown children.
Right.
You're never done leading your children.
That's funny because when they're little, you think that when they become 18, 20 years old,
that you've taught them everything.
Yeah, and you're just done.
Yeah.
But I realize that I still call my dad and I say, Dad, what do you think about this? Like, how do you think I could do this? Mm-hmm. I mean, you still call my dad.
Right.
Tim, how do I do this? And so I don't think there ever comes a time in our life to where we don't need parental guidance.
You're never finished leading. You get done raising them.
But you always
once they're out of your house, you're no longer raising children, but you're never done leading children.
No.
So there's two ways to lead. There's cooperative leadership and there's commanding leadership. So in the book of Isaiah, God begs us. He says, "Come, let us reason together."
Right.
Reason together. Okay, so cooperative leadership means we're going to talk about things. This is not the best for you. This is how you talk to grown children. You can't command grown children.
Mm-mm.
Because when they're little and they're small, you have a commanding authority over their life. But when they are grown, you have to switch from commanding authority to cooperative authority. In other words, when you sit down with a grown child and you say, "That's probably not a good plan. Have you thought about this?
Right.
Have you thought about the repercussions? Have you thought about what's going to happen?" When they're little, you say, "Stop that. Don't do that." And the reason you do it is because commanding authority means that you are an authoritarian.
Right.
Don't touch that. It's hot. It's going to hurt you. But once they are grown, you no longer can lead them as an authoritarian. Mm-hmm. You have to have their cooperation. So you cooperative try to lead them. So you can't spank a 30-year-old. I mean, you can. It's odd. But I mean, you can. But what you really need to do is cooperate with them.
Right.
So that's the difference is when you switch from being a commander and being an authoritarian in their life to when you generally become a person they seek out for wisdom and counsel.
Exactly. And you as a parent have that opportunity when your child comes to you and says, "Mom, Dad, I'm going to be doing this. What do you think about this?" That's your opportunity to give advice, and you can give your opinion about the matter in a way to where you're not going to run your kid off, but in the same sense, I mean, you have to. You're nurturing them. You're still directing them.
Right. I see Charity put her favorite scripture in there in the chat. "Spare the rod, spoil the child." I see that because that's her favorite.
That's
scripture.
Good, Troylyn. My adult kids teach me now.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. We cooperate. God told Isaiah, he said, "Tell my people, come, let us reason together." In other words, I'm going to hear you out and you hear me out.
Right, because we're wrong sometimes too. And it's okay if your kid points it out to you.
And your kids have different experiences that you've not had. So they will bring viewpoints to the table that you've not thought about.
You're not right on that.
Absolutely.
You've not done that. I did do, I've done this and that's not right.
Right.
So it's okay if your kids correct you too.
And it's okay if your kids get up from the table and go and decide to do what they wanted to do, even though you said it's not. Do you hear me, Mama? Do you hear me, Daddy? It's okay when your adult children make choices that you did not prefer for them. It's okay because you did it too.
We do.
And you ended up all right. You're still here.
Yeah.
You did things, Mom and Dad, and some of us, that's the only way we learn.
I think that is one thing that I've learned as a parent. That is one of the hardest things.
Absolutely.
Is when you think your child should do this, and they want to do the complete opposite, and you're thinking, well, am I right or wrong about this?
Right.
Because no matter how right you think you are, you could still be wrong.
Right. Charity says sometimes she still needs a good lick. I'll tell Israel. I think he's out in the hallway. He'll put you over his knee.
Number
3, with prayerful consideration, what are some things that can be done to build or restart a marriage relationship where both individuals are completely opposite in thinking and desires and get on each other's nerves? What's it like to have somebody you're married to get on your nerve?
Oh my.
So first of all,
this is real talk.
First of all, part of this question answers itself, because when you have a marriage relationship where both individuals are completely opposite in thinking and desires, you have no option but to get on each other's nerves. So part of that's answering itself.
Yes.
That's why you're on each other's nerves, is because you're completely opposite. In thinking and desires.
Really, honestly, lots of prayer. Lots of prayer.
Help me, Jesus.
And you have to have a changed mindset, or a mindset to at least change. You really have to get to a point to where you just want to. I really don't know how else to say it. Like, you have to desire to want to please the Lord so much that you're willing to get along and to do whatever that you can to make it right with that person. Every decision I make, I try to make it pleasing to God. Do I fail at it? Absolutely.
I wasn't going to answer. I was afraid.
No, I do. And every time I feel like that I'm on the right path and I'm doing right, I'm going to fail again. Mm-hmm. And God knows in my heart that's what my desire is to want to please Him and to follow Him. And I am going to fall off that path from time to time. We don't always stay on the straight and narrow. We do fall off. And we do say things to our spouses that we wish that we wouldn't, and we do things to our spouses that we wish we wouldn't have. But when it comes down to it, you have to want to. It has to be, God, I desire to serve you and to please you and to make you happy, so I'm willing to do whatever it is you ask of me. And the thing is, that hurts. It's painful.
You know who has a hard time with this is people who don't cut themselves any slack, and they don't cut their spouse slack.
Yeah.
The more you hold on to grudges and bitterness and hold on to the hurt, the harder it's going to be for you to get past.
That's hard to let go of.
Absolutely.
Because when you hurt someone and, you get over that hurt and then another hurt comes along, it's almost like the walls do start, it starts getting higher.
Right.
And you keep putting blocks on the wall.
And if you don't deal with it, you eventually wall yourself in.
You do. And you can't even stand to be in the same room with that person. So the thing is, there's been times in our marriage and ministry, and because we've not saw eye to eye with the kids or whatever, and we come to church and do the right thing, and we go home and we're miserable. And I'm telling you, you have to want to. It has to be, God, I want the desire to love how I'm supposed to love.
Right. And you also have to think about this too. So you build a new house, and 3 years later, that new house isn't as new as it used to be.
Right.
Because it starts getting worn. Things start chips in the paint.
And it irritates you.
And it irritates you because you started out with this pristine, perfect thing.
Right.
And the longer you live in it, things get worn.
And you see it.
And let's be honest. If you spend $100,000 building a house and or remodeling a house, you can have 9 out of 10 rooms be still in perfect order, but that one room with that one mark on the wall, that mark on the wall is what catches your attention.
Yes.
Your eye is drawn to that one space where that doorknob went through the drywall, and now you've got a patch, and it bugs you to death. And you don't look at the beauty of the rest of the house.
Right.
That cracks.
It's just the one thing that just bothers you and bothers you. But the thing is, that one thing might not ever go away. And it might be there when you're talking forever. About humans,
especially when we're talking about each other. So that person started out, you married them because you saw the beauty in them. And the longer you're with them, the more warm they get, and they wear on you.
Yeah.
And we do have a tendency to focus on the 1, 2, 3, 4 bad things.
Oh, we do.
And just forget about the rest of the beauty. So
we look at the bad instead of the good.
Right. So refocus. That's a good word to use.
Refocus.
Okay. The fourth question. These are good questions, guys. Thank you for helping us out.
Challenged me a little bit.
Why do you think friendships are so hard to maintain and nurture? So that's keeping them going, and nurture means to feed them and make them stronger. Different expectations. Is it because of individuals having different expectations?
Right. First of all, there's a lot of give in friendships. So if you have a friendship, you really love this person, there's a lot of give. Mm-hmm. And the other person might not give like you give. So, you deal with that. You might give more, they may give more. It's that expectation. Some want more time than other people want. So some friendships are, at church, hi, I love you. You might chat with them 20 minutes or whatever. But to have a real friendship to where, you do things together, you're there for each other in the late night hours when things go wrong, there's a lot of give to it. There's a lot of give. And with friendships, you have to become vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And for some, this is extremely hard. So when you have to be yourself, you have to give and share places of yourself with these people. It's hard for you to hold on to those kind of friendships when you can't share. So if you can't be vulnerable and give of yourself, it's going to be hard to maintain a friendship. Mm-hmm. Because friendships are about sharing.
Right. What's the Bible say about if you want friends? What's Proverbs say? Bueller? You
have to be friendly.
Friendly. So if you want friends, you have to be friendly. In other words, mm-hmm. before you get, you have to give.
Yeah.
Keeping a friendship maintained never stops. That system has to work constantly. If you're going to get, you're going to have to constantly give. Yeah. And that's the problem that we have, is because, Linda got it, be friendly. That's the problem we have, because the vulnerability. Most people at some point, we become guarded. I'm only going to let you know so much about me. I'm only going to let you come so far. And then I get guarded. I shut you out. Whatever level you shut them out, whatever level you stop the growth, that's as far as that friendship will ever go.
Oh, it is, yeah.
And in the day and age that we live in, we have less and less time to invest. And friendship is an investment.
It really,
make no mistake about it.
It really is. That's why, if you have one good friend, you're truly blessed. Yeah. 1 or 2 good friends.
Because you don't have time to invest in more than that.
No. You can have people that you like to go to dinner with or whatever, but we're talking about like real friendships. And yeah, you have to invest in it. Yeah. And the thing is, if you're desiring that friend to give you more, you're going to have to be willing to give more as well. Yes. You can't expect the other person to do all of the giving and you not give back.
Right. That's where we get guarded. We don't like being vulnerable. And whatever level you refuse to go past the threshold, the friendship stops right there. It doesn't stop, but it won't ever be more than where you're willing to be vulnerable.
And a lot of times too, you have to realize you might be a super friendly person and you might be a giver. And you might try to have all these relationships, and just because your personality, you're like overly cheerful and you're friendly and you give gifts and you do a lot, don't really expect that back, because just because you like to do it and that's who you are does not mean that that person is going to be the same way.
And you'll get taken advantage of.
You do, and you'll get hurt.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And the thing is, you can't put up a wall towards other people because that person hurt you.
Right, and that's so. I there's this phrase I use in ministry when I'm training ministers is, don't miss the Johns because of the Judases.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so John loved Jesus.
Right.
And he was with Jesus. As a matter of fact, when Jesus was on the cross, he looked at John and told John, take care of my mother. John was there. He was one of the very few disciples that showed up on Calvary and followed Jesus all the way.
Right.
Had Jesus judged all 12 disciples based on the way Judas acted,
that'd been bad.
Then he'd have shut them all out. You're going to run into some Judases. There's going to be some Judases in your life.
Yes, there is. And I'm telling you, if you're a friendly person and you love people, there's nothing wrong with being yourself. But be willing to know that just because you're that way doesn't mean most people are. So, right. But it doesn't mean that you won't eventually find your friend either. There might be someone that loves you as much as you love them too. So,
yeah. Charity, don't want to miss a John, especially when you got to go. Wrong John. Wrong John, Reverend. So yeah, you're gonna run into, you're gonna have some Judases. If you make yourself friendly and you get surrounded by people, you're eventually gonna get taken advantage of. You're gonna make yourself available to people that take advantage of you. But you never want to miss the Johns in your life because somebody else shut the door in your face.
Right.
Okay, so the next question. What are some things that a leader can do in business or ministry that will help those under them adapt more easily to change?
First off, change is hard. And, I'm a person that doesn't mind change. And it doesn't bother me as much as it does some people. But people get in a routine, and that becomes so-called, in quote, normal. Mm-hmm. So change requires then, quote, a new normal. So what was your normal when you change has to become something new. Change becomes easy when our focus is turned goal-oriented. So when there's a goal in mind, the Bible talks about vision. And so when we have a goal in mind, change then becomes easier. What is this change going to bring about? Look at the change as productivity. A lot of times church members get really disgruntled, and we all do it at times. We're like, well, why do we got to do it this way? Why do we have to change this? But if the change that we made, there's productivity being made from it, then the change was beneficial.
Right.
So I always look at change. If you're just changing stuff to change it, not so sure that would work all the time, but change with a goal in mind, knowing that there's something better, or, that God's going to do something, or even in a business, if I make this small change, if I do this, then there's going to be, there's going to be much added. Right. So I think the goal.
So in Habakkuk, the Bible says, write the vision
and make it plain.
Mm-hmm. So that those who read it will run after it.
Right.
Okay. So the first thing that you have to do as a leader is, in order to help those under you adapt, is you have to write the vision and make it plain.
Right.
Because if we don't make the vision plain, all people see is, change. I don't like
what is
change.
All of this?
Why are we changing things? If they don't know why you're changing it, okay, so those of us that are in leadership understand change is inevitable.
It happens all the time.
Well, we have to, because anything that's not changing is dying or already dead.
Yes.
So we have to change. It's inevitable. When we started this church, at this church with 13 people.
Oh my!
I mean, you could know every person. You knew their kids, where they worked, where they lived. We spent intimate moments with everybody. It is physiologically impossible for us to spend that kind of time with everybody in this building.
Oh.
There's 250 people here on a Sunday. I don't even know some of their names.
And we're starting new ministries and stuff. It seems like every Sunday, and people are getting involved. And I look at them like, I know that these people are signing up. I don't know them.
So we have to change.
We have to.
There's no way that we can operate the church in the form that it's in and go to another level without change.
We want people to do things that they like to do,
right?
Like ministry wise and just for fun. Like we want people. This is family.
Yes.
And so we always are wanting to add and do things that are going to make people feel welcome.
But I've always used that scripture in Habakkuk as our goalpost.
Right.
Write the vision and make it plain, because we never want people to just come in and say, "Why is all this change taking?" We want them to know we changed this because this is the vision.
People are interested.
We have a vision. We're trying to get somewhere. In order for us to get there, we have to have these changes in place to get there.
So change becomes a little easier when you shift your focus to knowing that there's a vision and there's a goal.
Yes.
And if that is in mind, then you're willing to do whatever the change is. Now, I'm not saying you're always going to like the change, because you can do it and get along and know that it's God and still not really like the change.
Absolutely.
And that's okay.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely okay. It's okay to not like certain things and to still be okay in your spirit with what God's doing.
We've made changes in this church that I don't like.
Oh, we do.
But I know it's best.
We talk about it, and he knows that it's what God wants, but there's certain things that he would still kind of do old school, but it wouldn't be beneficial to what God's doing.
What God's doing, the vision of the house.
And I've heard many ministers say so many times, like, educating us, if I would have done things the way I wanted to do them, we would not have this many souls won to the kingdom. So we have to be willing to say, I really don't like that too much, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it because God's okay with it.
Right.
So
we got 2 more questions, guys. Number 6, how do ministry leaders recalibrate with change in ministry direction and still keep positive momentum? And the key word here is momentum. So,
as a ministry leader for the past 20 plus years, at least 21.
Would you start
22?
When you were 6?
I don't know. We've been doing this since I was a child.
You're only 26 years old.
There has been much change and direction in our church and just in the church in general.
Yeah.
The positive momentum for me has always been excitement and watching people follow and work for the Lord, like having new people added to the fold and just the excitement of knowing what God is going to do. Now, I have had my times of sadness and depression and just things that I've went through in life, my health, loss of family members, things like that. But I've always known that God was going to do more.
Right.
Like even through all of that stuff and, all of the trials and things that a church goes through, I've always known that God was going to do more. Right. So the momentum for me has always just been excitement and anticipation to see what God is going to do.
Right. When it comes to momentum, one of the things that I have learned recently is just show up.
Oh, yeah. Because
so often what happens is we don't feel like momentum's happening because we don't have as many people showing up as we feel like, I had a class and only one person showed up. I had this practice for this whatever and only 2 people showed up. And so we stop.
You just keep going.
If you're going to get momentum, you as the leader have to keep going. You have to keep the momentum. You have no option. Just show up. You know who ends up doing ministry? The ones who show up.
That's right.
Sometimes it's not the most gifted. Sometimes it's not. Very seldom is it the most talented.
No.
It's the one who shows up. Ministry ends up being done by the ones who say, well, if nobody else is going to do it, I guess I will.
Listen, that's me.
That's our whole ministry.
I am sitting here at Real Talk with you guys. 5 years ago, I could have never seen myself here. I could have never seen myself on that stage or preaching or any of those things. But when you have a desire to just do it, no matter what you go through, you just keep doing it, God will bless you and he'll give you more. And he just keeps putting more in your lap. Okay, you were faithful with this little. I'm gonna give you more.
Momentum stops when the leader stops. If the leader just says, "Well, I only got, like Sister Linda just put, one kid. I'm gonna quit. I only got one kid." Well, momentum just died. You can't get momentum.
I was always appreciative too with the one child, or whatever. Like, I remember we used to teach the youth and stuff like that,
Right.
and I remember going to choir practice and just getting to sing for the first time, and I thought it was the greatest thing in the whole wide world.
I don't think a lot of people know our story to the extent. Listen, people, I started out talking to 4 kids in a basement of a church. That's where my first sermons was preached to 4 kids, sometimes 5 or 6, in a basement at the Montcalm Church of God.
And we done many fundraisers with those kids. We took them snow tubing. We were very active.
Yes.
With the youth department, and it grew, and it went from that to him becoming the associate with Brother Haddock, and then we got our first church. But honestly, we didn't have much, but we both worked secular jobs, and every time that we could be at church to teach, whatever, anything that was ever offered to us, we always done it.
My first job I ever performed at the church was helping dig up the sewer line in the parking lot. And I was thrilled that I got to help dig up a stinky pipe in the parking lot. I didn't feel like I was above that.
Yeah.
So momentum, listen, ministry gets done by people who show up.
You just
show up.
Do it with a heart
of gladness.
And you love the Lord. Yeah. Like, if you love God, you're willing to do whatever. I mean, there's been a lot of things that I probably particularly wouldn't have done on my own, but because I love God, I do it.
Right.
There's been a lot of times where I want to just stay home. I'm not going today. I've been through too much this week. I don't think I can keep a straight face without crying today. I'm not going to go, but I always come.
Right.
And God bless us.
Okay, guys, we got one question left. This one is, it is inevitable that when we start over, okay, that we compare or base our expectations on what was. What's the best way to not do that? Okay? So the first question you need to ask yourself is this: where am I wanting to go?
Right.
Because if I'm basing where I'm going on where I've been, then my standard is only ever going to reach what's behind me.
Mm-hmm.
So if let's just take you and I for an example. If we only were going to base where we're going on what we've already had, then we should be trying to pastor 70 people, because that's where we were.
Right.
In order for you to move forward, what's Paul say? Forgetting those things which are behind.
You can't continually look back.
And don't get that twisted to where you feel like, well, that means I'll never think about it, because obviously you build on where you've been.
Yes.
So it's not, Paul's not saying that you erase it from your memory.
You remember, but you use the remembrance to give you the drive to go forward.
What he literally means is when he says forgetting, he's talking about direction. He's saying you're not headed that way anymore. So get your focus off of where you've been and put it on where you're going, because you're not headed backwards anymore. So it's a shift in focus is what it is. It's not that you erase the memories, because
honestly, what you remember will give you motivation.
Yeah,
to go.
There's nothing wrong with looking back
forward. No,
God made them put stones. He called them memorial stones in the Jordan River, and he says when your children come back here and look at these,
they'll remember.
They'll remember what I did for them. There's nothing wrong with looking back. Paul's not saying to never look back. What he's saying when he says forget, it's a directional thing. He's saying you're not headed that way anymore.
And don't desire to go back there.
Don't desire what you had, like Lot's wife did.
Don't desire to go back to what you had, but desire what God has for you now.
Moving forward, right. It's not that you forget it. It's not that you erase it from your memory. It's that you're not going there anymore. And what was will never be again.
Right.
And God says the glory of the latter house will be greater than that of the former house
So
anyway.
if you can stop focusing on what you used to have and how good it used to was, not good English, but if you can stop thinking about that, then you're going to be able to get blessed with what I have for you right now. You don't see what I see for you, but if you can let that go,
right,
and focus on your future, I'm going to bless you.
And listen, if you think about it, your whole life is a series of these things. When you're
Just focus on the future.
Exactly. If you think about your whole life as a series of this, because when your children are little, that's one stage of your life that you'll never go back to.
You remember it.
You remember it.
But you can't get it back.
It'll never be that again. And then when they're teenagers, and it'll never be that again. Then when they're grown, and then they'll never have that again. And then when they start having grandchildren, you appreciate the now. You never forget the past, but you're not heading backwards anymore.
No, and listen, the mistakes you've made, and you're going to still make mistakes in life, and you're going to make wrong decisions in the church, in your ministries if you're a leader. You are going to fail, and you're going to make mistakes. But if you cannot stay there in your mistake, and if you can move forward, God will bless you.
Yep.
I love the questions, guys.
Thank you so much for giving us a moment of your. I see we went for 47 minutes. We really didn't intend. She said, I can't talk that long. She said, it's going to be short. I can't talk that long. But
God always gives you more than what you think.
Yeah, and I tried to tell her that. So thank you for the questions. When we do this every month, if you guys will chime in, it makes this job so much easier, and I think more delightful, because we're actually able to communicate with you on something that you're interested in. So
Yes.
We're looking forward to the Easter season, and we thank you for joining us on Wednesday and welcoming Otis and Carmen to our church family. So
yes, we love you and hope to see you Sunday. It's
Yes.
Palm Sunday.
Palm Sunday. We're getting closer to Easter, guys.
All right.
We love you. God bless you.
God bless you.